Okay, folks, we'll call this meeting back into session. It is now 1:04 p.m. Welcome everyone here today for this meeting. Rhonda, will you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Buck?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Commissioner McDaniel?
Present. All right, first item on the agenda is the Goodman rezoning RZ 2023-00026. I'd accept a motion to open a public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing for the Goodman rezone RZ 2023-00026.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So next is the land use planner will present the item.
Awesome, thank you. Good afternoon, Commission, those in attendance today. For the record, I'm Kelsey Lanham with the Elbert County Planning Department, and this afternoon I will be presenting the Goodman rezone, case number RZ 2023-00026. With no official address yet, the subject property is located at parcel number 64254-00002. It is just over 40 acres in size, and it's currently zoned agriculture. The applicant is Kathy Goodman, and she is requesting to rezone the entire property from agriculture to residential agriculture. A little bit about the background of the project. The applicant originally owned 320 acres. It was one large parcel. She then went through the assessor's office to subdivide and create 8 40-acre lots. At that time, the subdivision name Freedom Valley Ranch was created, and this subject property is known as Parcel F within that subdivision. The next couple slides, the subject property will be shown by the red star. So this property is located directly southeast of Sun Country and north of EC West. In addition, the subject property has historically been vacant, and there are no structures on the property as well. So like I mentioned, the subject property is currently zoned agriculture, with surrounding properties being zoned agriculture, residential agriculture, agriculture residential, or planned unit development, also known as a PUD. The closest RA properties, which is the zone district that the applicant is proposing to be, they are approximately 5.6 miles to the west along County Road 174. And the closest AR properties are Caddy Corner to the northeast, less than 500 feet away. In addition, at the April 23rd BOCC hearing, the commission approved to rezone the property directly to the north of this one from agriculture to RA. So now the closest RA property is just at that northern property line border. The zoning map hasn't been updated yet by the assessor's office, so this map is obviously still doesn't reflect that, but once that's done through the assessor, the zoning map will reflect the RA zoning. When it comes to the zone districts, I just want to emphasize that the only difference between an RA and an AR property is one development standard, which is the minimum lot width requirement. For an RA property, the minimum lot width is 200 feet, and for an AR property, it's 250 feet. That is the only difference between the two. Here is a snippet of their rezone exhibit. The property line is outlined in yellow with the road Winners Circle in red. As you can see, the entire property is requested to be rezoned. Looking at the project timeline, so their pre-application meeting was in July of 2023. Their community meeting was in August of 2023. This project did go through 3 review cycles, one in October to November of 23, one in May in 2024, and the last one in December of 24. This item originally was supposed to go to the March 4th Planning Commission, but the county was closed due to weather, so then it was rescheduled to the April 1st hearing. At the April 1st hearing, additional information was requested to be shown and presented by the PC. So then it was rescheduled for the May 6th Planning Commission hearing. And obviously here we are today at the May 14th BOCC. At the community meeting, there were 3 attendees outside of the applicant and Elbert County Planning staff. The main concern was water and where the water was being pulled from. Since the community meeting, no written public comment has been received. At the Planning Commission last week, there were 2 members of the public that spoke, and both were supportive of the rezone application. These are the referral agencies that reviewed and responded to the application. Like I mentioned, the Planning Commission requested additional information and clarification from Division of Water Resources, Colorado Geological Survey, and Public Works Engineering. These referral agencies were contacted prior to the May 6th Planning Commission for further clarification. Their responses were included in today's packets and to the Planning Commission at their last hearing. There are no outstanding objections or comments from any of the referral agencies. And with that, Article 3C4 of the Elbert County zoning regulations shall consider the following for a rezone application. A, the rezone is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. It was found that this rezone is consistent with the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Plan. B, the rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. It was found that this rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. C, the rezone will not adversely impact public services. It was found that this rezone will not adversely impact public services. D, the rezone will not adversely impact the environment. It was found that the rezone will not adversely impact the environment. E, the rezone will not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden existing road system. It was found that the rezone would not create unreasonable traffic or burden existing road system. Public Works was a referral agency during this process and did require the applicant to construct the road throughout the entire subdivision. The road has been inspected and approved by Public Works, and they have no outstanding objections or comments. And finally, F, the rezone will not be detrimental to the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. The rezone was found not to be detrimental. So based on review of the approval criteria found in Elbert County zoning regulations and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions of the Goodman rezone. The conditions are: 1, the applicant will be required to remove signs within 2 weeks of the conclusion of all notified meetings, public hearings, or decisions. Signs not removed within 2 weeks may be removed by Elbert County, subject to reasonable charges for removal. 2, the rezone will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of BOCC approval. And that concludes my presentation. The applicants are present among the crowd tonight if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. So we would ask the applicants if they would to come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Kathy Goodman, and I live at 473 Brailsford Court, Castle Pines, Colorado.
Hi. So any board members have any questions?
Was there anything that you'd like to add in addition to the staff's presentation?
I think where we're located, it's going to be a really nice buffer between the Sun Country 2 to 4 acre lots and the high density build across the street, since we're doing 10 acre lots. I think it will add a lot to the community by being larger lots.
Anything else, sir? Commissioner?
No questions at this time.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any comments from citizens? Going once? All right, we'll close the public comment. All right, any additional questions from the board before we go on? Good? All right, I'm ask for a motion.
Yeah, it looks very straightforward. I appreciate your comments. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Goodman rezone RZ 2023-00026.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, thank you. All right, I accept a motion to close this public hearing. It's a motion to close the public.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. All right, next item on the agenda is the Sundance Solar 1041-2024-1310 and SUR 2024-0028. I would accept a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, and just for clarification that we will be hearing both the 1041 application and the SUR application concurrently.
Yes, Commissioner. Due to the fact that the applications are very similar other than the approval criteria, we thought it made sense to make one presentation. I will highlight the two separate approval criteria, and we would need two motions, two votes at the end.
Okay, very
The
good.
applicant would also have a single presentation.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. So, Mr. Chair, I move we open a public hearing for Sundance Solar, the 1041, case number 2024-1310, and SUR 2024-0028.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. All right. So with that, do we want to call for a roll call on this, Commissioner Schroeder? No, we're here. We're here? We're good? Okay, good enough. All right, land use planner will present.
Good afternoon, Commission. Jennifer Jones, Planning Manager in Elbert County. I will be presenting, as we discussed, both the major 1041 permit application and the special use by review application for Sundance Solar. Couple quick housekeeping notes. I did pass out a folder to the commissioners with a few additional handouts that have come in since the packet was published. It does include new comments from the public, a comment from CenturyLink, and a letter from the applicant. Okay, a summary of the project. The proposed project is located at the southeast corner of Kiowa Bennett Road and County Road 154. We will look at some maps here in just a couple of slides. The overall site is about 1,100 acres, zoned A agriculture. The actual footprint of the proposed project is closer to 600 acres. I mentioned this property is zoned A agriculture. According to the Elbert County zoning regulations land use table, agriculture or A2 are the only zoning districts that would allow for a solar facility.
Hey, Jennifer, sorry to interrupt. And Chairman, if I may, was this meeting properly noticed to the county building versus the ag building? There were some citizens that... There was some citizens concerned that this was scheduled for the ag building, and I noticed we have people standing, and I just wanted to get some clarification on that if we could. Apparently, there's some individuals here that are saying no, that it was in fact posted to the ag building.
Sure, we can certainly take a quick break and pull up those documents. I will note that the Excel Power Pathways project has been noticed to the agriculture building in case there's any confusion about that. This this project was always intended to be noticed to this building. But I can certainly pull up the documents.
I would like to then recess for about 10 minutes. Would that give you enough time to verify that, please?
Of course.
All right, thank you. Here. So the information is that the county posted it would be here and not at the agriculture building. So with that being said, if we want to take a couple of minutes and get some additional chairs, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Well, this could take a while, so if you're good.
Yeah, there is some space. We could put some chairs here. There's some chairs in the hallway if any of you folks do want to sit down. It's going to be a long meeting, I think.
There's one chair up here if there's any ladies out there.
Fire code. Hindsight, we should have done that.
What's being requested is approval of a major 1041 permit and a special use by review for a solar facility with up to 74.9 megawatts of solar energy and/or 50 megawatts of battery storage, including a substation. As previously mentioned, this project is not related to or associated with the XL Power Pathways project in any way. Just as a matter of clarification. This is a map of the entire county. So you can see, hopefully you can see, there's a little teal circle where this project is. We'll zoom in. This project, as mentioned, is at the southeast corner of Kiowa Bennett Road and County Road 154. Kiowa Bennett Road is an arterial classified roadway in Elbert County. And the yellow highlight is the EDZ, or the Economic Development Zone, which does allow for some different uses in that particular area. And I would like to highlight the small gray square up along County Road 154 is an existing core substation that is there. It's in existence. This project is specifically proposed adjacent to that for the connection capability of being directly adjacent to that existing facility. This is a site photo of the subject property. It's currently vacant and undeveloped. And this is a photo of the existing core substation that is along that south side of County Road 154, directly adjacent to the subject site. As mentioned, the proposed solar facility would have an interconnection with the existing core substation. The energy produced would help provide energy to core customers that are within Elbert County. And as previously noted, a solar facility is only allowed in agriculture or A2 zoning districts. It is not an allowable land use in business, commercial, or industrial zoning districts. So let's take a look at the site plan. And I'm gonna point various things out. I know it's a little bit hard to see. This is the site. Again, as shown on the map, north is still at the top of the slide. County Road 154 along the top of the slide, and Kiowa Bennett is labeled over on the left. The dark gray areas are the areas that would include the solar arrays or rows of solar panels. There is a detail of what the solar panels kind of look like and how they function. They do track the sun and do rotate during the day. There is 8-foot fencing proposed around the perimeter of the project. I do have several slides to show you some renderings of some different fencing options that are available. So a particular note on the proposed site plan is that the applicant has proposed about a 1,000-foot setback from Kiowa Bennett Road just to help push that project back from the more highly traveled road here. That 1,000-foot setback is not a requirement that's proposed by the applicant to help potentially mitigate any visual concerns. And then there's also a 200-foot setback proposed along County Road 154. As mentioned, the existing core substation, it's shown here in yellow. There would be an interconnection point with this proposed facility, and also pointed out is the substation for this site that would be located within the fence line. Speaking of the fence, there's also I'm calling it a wildlife corridor, essentially an opening or a pass-through identified between these two areas that would allow wildlife to pass through where the fencing does not extend, so that is an open area. We've also highlighted the office and parts building and employee parking, as well as the battery storage area, which is located there south of the substation. But as you can see, the majority of the site are the solar panels. So a little bit of background. This might sound familiar to folks. This project, in a very similar form, was previously proposed and presented to the Planning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners back in 2018. That project was approved. It was actually approved through Resolution 18-9. They were not able to build this project at that time, so those approvals have lapsed, requiring this new application that's before you now. A summary of the timeline of how we got here. So back in July of last year, there was a determination of the 1041 level. I mentioned it is a major 1041 application. There was a pre-application meeting, and the determination of that 1041 level was published. In the fall, there were 2 community meetings, and we will get into those. The formal application came in December. There were 2 completeness reviews done on the application, and then that first referral was sent out in March of this year. So about the community meetings, as mentioned, there were 2 community meetings, one in September, one in October. There were about 20 or so residents at the first meeting and a little bit fewer at the second meeting. Some of the questions and concerns that were noted at those meetings were, why wasn't it built in 2018? So the applicant did address that with the public. There were some questions about environmental impact or impact to wildlife, questions about how the power would be distributed. I did mention the power would go to residents within Elbert County that are core customers. Other questions about the solar panels themselves, what they're made of, what the materials are inside, the safety of them, the details of them in general, in terms of their construction, where they were coming from, questions like that. Quite a bit of discussion about fencing and how the project would be screened. Also, questions or concerns about potential noise, light, or dust from the project in particular during construction. And then finally, questions about fire safety and the aesthetic, or what will the visual impact be to the surrounding properties. So once the actual application came in and it was sent out for referral, for review by outside departments and agencies, the folks noted they specifically noted that they did not have objections, concerns, or specific comments. Those folks included Black Hills Energy, the building department, Elbert County Office of Emergency Management, the Sheriff's Office, the Treasurer's Office, Kiowa Conservation District, and Lumen or CenturyLink. They actually just provided an additional comment that was in your paper packet this morning. That just came in this week. Agencies that did provide comment or feedback on the referral, but which have all been addressed or acknowledged, included the Department of Water Resources, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, CORE, the Assessor's Office, Planning Department, Elbert County Public Health, Elbert County Public Works Road and Bridge, and Kiowa Fire. Really, the only outstanding issue is that there will be a required road use agreement and development agreement associated with this project. If approved, those are currently being finalized between the applicant and the county. And they are recommended as a condition of approval should this application be approved. A summary of the comments from those agencies that did comment on the review. The Department of Water Resources noted that they would not be utilizing any wells for this project. Colorado Parks and Wildlife have had quite a bit of coordination with the applicant, including the fencing, which we will get into a little bit more. CORE noted that they would be maintaining their easements on the property and that appropriate clearances would be required from their existing facilities. Addressing comments from the assessor's office. Public Health worked with the applicant to get the applicant has agreed to install septic on the property, and then there were simply notes about any required permits that would be necessary with construction. For Public Works, as mentioned, road use agreement and development agreement, which are currently being finalized and are recommended as a condition of approval. And then the Kiowa Fire District has worked with the applicant. The only real comments that were provided were sort of standard solar requirements. So what is this going to look like? That was a big question that's come up several times. The packet includes a number of photo renderings or photo simulations from the applicant. I highlighted 3 from the 3 corners in this particular presentation. The initial photos are what was initially provided, and then based on some questions and feedback from the Planning Commission, the applicant has provided some different color options for fencing, and so I do have a few of those for your review as well, just to see if that kind of the difference that the color potentially makes. This particular rendering is from the northeast corner, looking northeast from the southwest corner, actually, of the site along Kiowa Bennett Road. And then this is a rendering from the north corner there, and you can see the dirt road, which is County Road 154. And then from the opposite corner, and in these photos, the green is the simulated fencing. And then the applicants have also provided, again, since the Planning Commission hearing, both beige and brown options in case it was thought that those might fit in or blend a little bit more with the landscape out there. So here you see a beige option and then essentially the same simulation but with brown. And then just from another perspective, this one is a little bit harder to see, the beige and the brown. So that is something that the Board of County Commissioners could consider if they had a preference on the fencing color. Into the comprehensive plan a little bit. The 2 particular goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan are related to this application. Elbert County strives to safely foster a balance between the natural and developed environment while supporting private property rights. And an energy conservation goal of Elbert County strives to ensure permanent, renewable, and reliable energy supplies. And then, in addition, a comprehensive plan policy, EN1, the county should encourage energy conservation strategies, energy efficiency design, and renewable energy resources to be incorporated at all levels of development. Public comments. There are a number of public comments that have been received on this project. Most of them were included in your packet. I did hand out a few additional paper copies of ones that have come in since the packet was published. The letters do include both letters in opposition and letters in support of the project. Looking through the letters in opposition, I've summarized some of the concerns that were noted, primarily maintaining or concern for the rural character of the area, potential issues with fire safety, water usage, traffic, and then the solar panel materials or safety of the solar panels themselves. This project was heard before your Planning Commission initially on April 15th. The hearing was continued and also heard on April 16th and April 22nd. There were 14 public comments at that hearing. 4 were in support of the project and 10 were in opposition of the project. So I will quickly go through each of the approval criteria and then the recommendations and what was recommended by your Planning Commission as well. And I do apologize, there's quite a few of these, but I do think they're important to just go through. We'll start with the 1041, and again, this is a summarized, the exact language is included in the staff report and in your packet for review. And a few different sections are applicable, starting with Article 17, letter M. A, applicant will get all necessary property rights, right-of-way easements and permits. B, having to do with water quality and water supply. C, that there's not a significant risk from a natural hazard. D, conformity with master plans, including the comprehensive plan. Letter E, that there's not an adverse impact on local services or capacity of delivery systems. F, principles of sustainability, resource conservation, energy efficiency, and recycling or reuse. G, that the project will not degrade the environment. H, that the project will not negatively impact high priority habitats. I, that the project or the proposal will not cause a nuisance. J, it will not degrade areas of archaeological importance. K, it's necessary to meet the development and population demands. And letter L, that it will not result in an unreasonable risk of release of hazardous materials. Additional criteria sections that apply are letter M, number 2, that the project will not create a financial burden on the county. B, that it's technically and financially capable. Letter C, that the applicant has the expertise and financial capability to develop and operate the project. D, the project will not degrade any sector of the local economy. Letter E, that it will not degrade quality, quantity of recreational opportunities. F, that the benefits outweigh the losses. And G, that the most suitable solution available based on the need, location, technology, cost, impact, and regulations. And as a reminder, I should have noted earlier, a major 1041 application, while it's required for a solar project, other types of projects that would require that type of permit would be something like a mass transit facility or a solid waste disposal facility or the location of a major highway. And so those are the other types of big projects that this type of application would be applicable to. Letter M4 are further approval criteria applicable to the application, that it preserves desirable patterns of traffic, aesthetic and landscaping, residential and commercial development, commerce and industry, and that it does avoid conflicts with state or local plans. Based on the approval criteria and review by the outside agencies and the findings that are included in your packet, staff had recommends that the board approve with conditions and for the major 1041 permit, and I will go through those recommended conditions. The normal condition about taking down the sign, that the fees have to be paid and the resolution has to be recorded, that the corresponding special use by review application also has to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners and recorded, that all the recordation has to happen within 180 days, and 5, that the applicant shall file with the county a financial security, such as a bond or irrevocable letter of credit, deemed adequate for the entire duration of the lifespan of the facility. This is a requirement in your 1041 regulations. It's essentially a bond in case the project did need to be decommissioned. That is a requirement, and so it is included as a recommended condition of approval, just to be on notice. The Planning Commission, I mentioned those hearings back in April. The Planning Commission recommends that the Board of County Commissioners does not approve the Major 1041 permit. That was a vote of 7-2. I did include the approved Planning Commission minutes in the packet. The concerns stated by the Planning Commission with their vote on the 1041 application included compatibility with the neighboring properties, concern for any archaeological sites in the area, commissioners not wanting to live next door to the project, landscaping, and a belief that the use should not be considered in an agriculture zone as it is an industrial or commercial operation in nature. With that, I will move to the special use by review approval criteria. Again, these are summarized, but the full text is included in the packet. These are from your Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3, E5. A, that it's compatible with the surrounding area. B, that it will not burden infrastructure. C, it will not cause traffic congestion or burden the road system. D, that it will not cause air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. And E, that sanitation requirements will be met. F, that the use is landscaped, buffered, and/or screened appropriately. G, will the project be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of Elbert County residents? And H, that any supplemental standards are met. And there are no supplemental standards noted for solar facilities in the regulations. For the special use by review application, again, staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve with conditions. I will go through those conditions quickly. Standard condition about taking down the signs and about fees being paid and the exhibit being recorded and recorded within 180 days. 4, that the corresponding major 1041 permit also be approved by the Board of County Commissioners. 5, as noted, the required road use agreement and development agreement must be fully executed and recorded. And 6, the applicant shall make payment to Elbert County in the amount of 2% of total construction cost within 6 months of approval or before any work takes place on the site. This is a requirement. This is noted in the approved fee schedule per Resolution 2239, and the applicant is aware of this fee that would be required. This fee is associated with the SUR, not with the 1041, and this fee is only applicable to certain types of applications, including solar facilities, wind farms, and a few other categories that are specifically listed. As noted with the Major 1041, the Planning Commission heard this in April. They recommend that the Board of County Commissioners denies the special use by review application. That was also a vote of 7-2. The concerns stated on the SUR vote were that commissioners believe that the applicants failed to meet criteria A, F, and G, and that there was a compatibility issue noted. The applicant is here to present. They do have a presentation as well. Staff is also available to answer any questions. That was a quick run through of a pretty big, complex project. Staff can answer any questions, and I'm sure the applicant will cover many of the details that maybe people may be wondering about.
All right, thank you. So as the applicant is here? Okay, we'll give you an opportunity, if you will, to approach the podium, and if you have comments, and then maybe the board has some questions for you as well.
Absolutely. So thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Peter Moritz-Burke, Vice President of Development for the Western region of the U.S. for Cypress Creek Renewables. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Sundance project here today and to consider it for approval. And thank you to the Elbert County staff and agencies who have spent many hours in reviewing the project. We brought together our team of experts here to present the project and answer any and all questions you may have today. So we are here seeking your approval of the project. And we strongly believe that the Sundance project will bring meaningful net benefits to the Elbert County community through its economic contributions. We've got the permit fee, $3.4 million that would be due in July of this year prior to start of construction. We've got $9.8 million in property tax revenues over the life of the project. And then we've got $500,000 that we would allocate to the community through scholarships and the community working group that we're assembling. It will also benefit the community through the transmission grid reliability and resiliency benefits. This is a local project providing local power to the people of Elbert County. It will also enhance rate stability because solar is a resource that does not have variable fuel costs. The only fuel is the sun. So we've heard a number of questions and concerns about certain elements of the project as well. So we've listened to those comments, and we're here today to present measures that address some of them and to provide more detail on how Sundance will integrate into the community to maximize the benefits it provides and minimize the impacts. So as we have done with hundreds of projects across the U.S. over the last 10 years, we believe that Sundance Solar will be able to integrate into this community to serve as a good neighbor and a long-term partner. So this week we submitted a letter to the Commission, that's in the public record, and that addresses the Sundance project's community commitment, the facility safety, the good neighbor practices, visual aesthetics, and respect for cultural sites. So we'll dig deeper into those points in the presentation, but happy to answer any questions you may have initially. So we've been working on the Sundance project since 2016 when we negotiated the first land agreements for the project site. And we're really proud to be here today at this juncture. We're excited for the project. It's been a long time coming. We're excited for the benefits that it'll bring to the community. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to join with Elbert County to make this project a reality. Thank you. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Zach Bartholomew. He's Sundance's lead developer. And we've got the team here, as I mentioned. We'll also have CORE present after us to answer any questions about how the project fits into its power supply plans.
All right, thank you, sir.
Jennifer, do you want me to drive the presentation, or would you like me to say next slide? Whichever. Yeah, no worries. There it is.
I apologize, Commissioners. Maybe we have 2 or 3 minutes.
Sure.
For some reason, it's not translating what it's supposed to.
All right, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Zach Bartholomew. I'm a senior project developer here at Cypress Creek, responsible for the development cycle of the Sundance Solar Project. I am accountable for the Colorado and Utah markets here at Cypress Creek. So, excuse me. To get into the presentation, first off, I want to thank you three personally for your time. Thank the community for the entire experience throughout the development cycle. As Peter mentioned, been a long time coming, and have had great feedback, great conversations, coffee with folks, and has been a really beneficial part of this journey. So I am here on behalf of Cypress Creek Renewables, representing the Sundance Project, 1041 and SUR, kind of a collective presentation. So we will get into it. Agenda, first we'll meet the project team, some folks in the audience today as well. We'll talk about Cypress Creek Renewables as a whole business, less Sundance specific, just where we operate and what we do. Then we'll hop into Sundance Solar, the actual project here in Elbert County here to present today. We have a section on FAQs, things that have come up from feedback or planning commission or community meetings that we want to address. Then we'll have a section on community involvement, and then last summary and closing. So the project team, as mentioned, myself, senior project developer Zach Bartholomew. In the audience here today, representative of Sundance Solar as well. We have Annie Rasser, senior director of engineering. She's been extremely beneficial throughout this entire project life cycle, as she was raised in Elbert County, so she has been, she went to high school here and was able to make a lot of good connections as well as help with the site plan. Associate Director of Environmental Affairs, Jennifer Hires, in the audience today. Senior Project Manager, Ryan Keeney from Cypress Creek in the audience today. Our environmental consultant, Dylan Costello, he's with Spirit Environmental, been very responsible for the permit scope itself, as well as a lot of the environmental studies, is in the audience today. Peter just introduced himself, Vice President of West Development, and then maybe a familiar face to some folks in the audience, Lauren Altig, Manager of External Affairs. So to start off, I think Jennifer wrapped it up very well. I didn't know how detailed she would get, so just have a couple quick slides on approval criteria. We will not go through this list, as Jennifer already did, but really just to showcase the Elbert County 1041 approval criteria, that we have had, the staff recommendation for approval, and that we have been able to successfully meet each and every one of these for the 1041, as well as the SUR. To start off, as Peter mentioned, I think it's super important, throughout this entire process, the community meetings, the Planning Commission, 3 separate meetings, myself and Lauren have been out here for the past 2.5 years developing this project, and have had excellent, feedback and being able to listen to folks. And so I wanted to point out a couple of the main things that have really stuck out over the course of time. And so the first one is aesthetics. I think it's super important to mention that these are tracking panels. They track with the sun, and so panels do only stick above the fence during morning and evening hours, lowest sunlight periods. 3 next things are all kind of coinciding within one another, but fence height, fence color, and berms were 3 specific things that were mentioned at the Planning Commission for us to go back. And so we were able to listen to that. We wanted to sympathize with that, and so in the past 3 weeks since the last Planning Commission meeting, or I guess 2 weeks, we have chatted with CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, multiple times to get their opinion on if these things are amenable to being changed. And so the first thing was the fence height. As Jennifer mentioned, currently at 8-foot tall agricultural mesh fencing. We'll get into that on another slide as well. But they were pretty foot down, if you will, about a higher fence. They truly feel that if anything higher than 8 feet, wildlife that may try and jump over could get tangled. And so they felt like that 8 foot is the preferred height. Fence color, however, they were amenable for changes. So as Jennifer mentioned in our application, we do show green. That is actually the Elbert County standard, as the substation out there is actually green, and so that was our best case for going through the visual photo simulations. However, in the last 2 weeks, we have gotten with our visual rendering experts, and we're able to provide brown and beige that are a little bit more harmonious and able to take that feedback. Berms was another thing mentioned. Very similar to the fence height with CPW, they were pretty against the berm idea. They felt, first off, their requirement is a 5-foot berm, and the fence has to go on top of that berm, making it a 13-foot tall fence essentially. And so it kind of goes back to the fence height issue. They also mentioned it would increase soil disturbance as well as drainage issues as well. And then the last thing that was mentioned on the aesthetics piece was trees and buffers. Is that an option? We've talked about that internally since the inception of this project, but a lot more detailed in the past 2 weeks with our operations and maintenance folks and folks of that nature. It's not advised. They truly feel that it is an increase to fire risk and water usage. Obviously, trees and vegetation do require lots of water. So we have gone with not being advised on that note. Another thing mentioned was emergency response times. So I've been, and we'll talk about this throughout the presentation, but in constant coordination with Kiowa Fire Department, Elizabeth as well. And they did present at our first Planning Commission meeting, and the average response time is 7 to 14 minutes at this moment. And then the last thing was cultural resource avoidance. Just wanted to point out that all cultural sites will be avoided as part of this project. So now we'll get into my agenda. So our business, Cypress Creek Renewables, we are a mission-driven, integrated, renewable IPP platform. IPP stands for Independent Power Producer. Essentially what that means is we develop, own, and operate all of our projects. We were founded in 2014, so just over 11 years of experience. We have over 400 total team members. We have SMEs and subject matter experts in origination, trading, engineering, myself on the development team, in-house operations and management folks, and asset management as well. Here's just a general map of projects that we've developed. We have developed over 850 projects in 22 different states in our 11 plus years, total of about 12 gigawatts. We also do standalone solar projects, standalone storage projects, and then projects similar to Sundance, which we call hybrid, solar and battery. Here's another general slide that just talks about solar and storage growth. I think the bottom picture is the most relevant on the slide, talking about Colorado-specific electricity production by type, and that's a map showing the past about 2.5 decades, about 25 years. It really showcases, the point of it is to really hit home on, solar and batteries. These are resources that are going to contribute to a reliable, resilient grid. The point of these projects is to be able to diversify the grid, but also increase reliability. Solar is a very cost-effective solution to be able to, join the diversity mix of energy production sites. So what solar is? Solar is contributing to a more diversified grid, as just mentioned. It is cost-effective. Like Sundance as well, it's able to be combined with energy storage systems, which we abbreviate BESS, Battery Energy Storage System, to provide a more reliable and stable power supply, even during low period of sunlight. So that's the point of the battery. It's, during low periods of sunlight, if needed to be released to the grid, the battery next to the substation, that is the sole purpose. Solar is quiet and efficient, requires low maintenance and minimal water usage. So for this project in specific, we are trucking in water for construction. During operation, very self-sufficient project. Water rarely needed. Panel washing is expected 1 to every 3 years, more on the latter side, about every 3 years. But it is very self-sufficient once operating and through construction. Panels are primarily made up of glass, aluminum, plastic polymers, and silicone. The purpose of a solar panel is to absorb sunlight. The purpose is not to emit. The purpose is for the sun to hit the panels, absorb, and then be released to the grid. So these panels are not reflecting or emitting. Electromagnetic fields are comparable to everyday electrical appliances, such as shavers and hair dryers. And studies do show that EMFs from solar panels specifically are safe and too weak to cause harm to human health in any way. Next point I think is important as well. Obviously, Colorado, and Elbert County in specific, has their 4 seasons, and so solar is able to generate electricity in any climate. Modern panels are tested to withstand hail around 1 inch in diameter at about 50 miles an hour. Projects like this are minimally impactful to the environment. They are a source as well for local economic stimulus. And then the last point I think is important. Solar is domestic energy. It's coming from the sun shining, over 300 days a year here in Elbert County, and so it is a domestic energy resource. That's solar. I wanted to focus on batteries for just a second. First and foremost, we do have an emergency response plan in coordination with and approved by Kiowa Fire Department. As mentioned, we have been in constant communication with them throughout this entire process, and they have approved our solar requirement checklist. Hythium is the manufacturer of our batteries. So that picture on the right, it's not supposed to be a simulation, but that's the batteries that we are using. They actually have their own battery fire protection system and emergency response plan as well. Both of those have been included in our Kiowa Fire Department submittal and approved by Kiowa Fire Department Chief. These Hythium batteries are conforming to the current NFPA 855 fire safety code, which is essentially the most up-to-date battery fire safety code. Cypress Creek, this is important for all of our projects. Our batteries must be state-of-the-art. They must be in accordance with the most current code. Our batteries are containerized for all of our projects. So container-based batteries, what that means is they are more efficient due to the cooling system that's inside each container. So these batteries you see on the right are essentially called containers, and each one of those has its own cooling system. The opposite of a container-based battery is a building-based battery, which is essentially a larger building with a bunch of batteries and one central cooling system. So that is not what we do. We actually have a cooling system within each one of these. Really, the main purpose of that is it greatly reduces fire risk or propagation risk. Propagation, essentially the spread of a thermal runaway, how fast something could catch on fire. High-lithium batteries in specific that we are using for this project are tested for propagation and large-scale burn testing before ever delivered to site. So these batteries will not show up to site at all until they are tested with no results or any sort of issues. And just wanted to mention that high-lithium to this exact day have never failed to date. They have never produced a flame during the testing period to date. And actually to mention as well, there was actually the first, or I don't know if it was the first, but there was just a high-lithium battery project of the exact same size as Sundance built in, I forgot what county, but built in Colorado that just announced their commercial operation yesterday. As mentioned, close communication with Kiowa, Rattlesnake, and Elizabeth Fire Department. We did submit our checklist and approved in April. And then we are committed also to conducting yearly first responder trainings as part of this project. That is the norm on all of our projects, and if technology were to ever change, we will, if new panels or new batteries came along in however many years, we would make sure that those are more often than needed. But we are committed to yearly first responder trainings on site. Cypress Creek, on the environmental front, we really intentionally site projects. So we're not just signing up land and hoping for the best. This is a lot of due diligence that really goes on much before we ever contact anybody. There's a lot of due diligence on the desktop that goes into these projects. As Peter mentioned, this project has been being studied and ongoing for several years. And so what comes with the intentional siting practices is extensively surveying, taking a conservative approach with resources. We make sure to implement any sort of agency recommendations that we get from Colorado Parks and Wildlife or anybody else in other states, that it is implemented into our site plan with the greatest extent possible. What that means is when we get told to have a recommended buffer, we usually go above and beyond with that number. We work cooperatively with the county and the public, so we've had a lot of feedback throughout this entire community process, and we're able to implement some of that into our site plan. And then we provide the utmost respect to conserve wildlife and nature throughout this entire development process. So that's Cypress Creek and General Solar Battery. I want to talk, while we're here today, about the Sundance project. So I think Jennifer mentioned it, and I want to spend a little bit more time on it, just Sundance project history, 2018 until now. And so as mentioned, Sundance Solar was approved by Elbert County BOCC back in 2018. Shortly after approval, the project was put on hold, essentially because this is all about supply versus demand. That's the main thing with solar batteries and energy production sites in general. And so the demand for new energy projects in Elbert County at the time was really not totally needed, I guess. So from 2019 to 2023, those 4 years in between, Cypress Creek was evaluating options on how to really progress this project. And in 2024, Cypress Creek and Core revived conversations due to the increase in demand that Core's territory is facing right here in Elbert County. And then what came with that is in late December of 2024, Cypress Creek and Core entered into a power purchase agreement, what we call a PPA, for the Sundance Solar and Storage Project. A little bit more on Core. So as just kind of mentioned, there is a need for power here in Elbert County. There's a need for power on the Core system. There is extremely fast increasing demand on the power front, on the grid reliable front, within Core system. As Jennifer mentioned, this is not part of the Colorado Power Pathway, completely separate from Excel. Sundance Solar and Battery is 100% focused on powering the local community here in Elbert County. What that means as well is it's very different than Excel. No overhead transmission lines outside the project area. This is, again, meant to be a Core project servicing Core and Elbert County customers. It does promote flexibility and reliability to the local grid. Sundance is actually part of an overall portfolio with Core to incorporate all sources of power. As mentioned, there is a large need for power, especially later in this decade with Core. And so this is one of those projects to help stabilize and diversify the electric grid. And then the last thing I think super important, solar energy and batteries can be built quickly to accommodate the energy demand in Elbert County. In our conversations throughout this entire process, there's a large need for power coming up very soon in Elbert County, and a project of this size, about 12 to 15 months to construct, is actually able to meet that need, whereas several other projects may not be able to meet that. So that's one of the main drivers. A little bit more on just the specs, but as Jennifer mentioned, about 75 megawatts, 50 megawatt battery by 4 hours, so that's 200 megawatt hours. Located right here in Elbert County, Colorado, interconnecting to the Core Kiowa 115 substation right on site. And then offtake, obviously, with Core as well. Very close to development complete, so we'll talk about surveys and things of that nature, but as the permitting process wraps up, pretty much development complete. Construction start Q3 2025, and operation start, as mentioned, about 12 to 15 months of construction, Q3, Q4 2026. We're located 3.5 miles north of Kiowa, Colorado, on County Road 154 in Kiowa Bennett. Currently zoned as agricultural land, the entire 1119 acres that we have under option. And there is, again, that existing core substation within the project boundary. We're proposing the currently zoned agricultural land for solar panels, site access, electrical infrastructure, battery storage, and then there will be a small operations and management building as well as a spare parts building, all within the fence. We are utilizing about 603 acres of the 1119 that we have under site control option. Lots of setbacks go into that. Cultural, environmental, engineering setbacks are all included in our site plan, and so that's kind of the total footprint. The panels will be a maximum of 15 foot high when fully tilted at 60 degrees. That's at peak. The battery structure would reach a maximum height of 10 feet. The site, again, will be surrounded by the 8-foot high agricultural mesh security fencing per CPW request, so there will not be any barbed wire associated with this project at all. It will all be the agricultural mesh fencing. Fence color will be harmonious with the existing landscape. We are open to recommendations. That picture on the right showcases the beige, between the beige, green, and brown. I think the beige personally looks better. Minimal lighting required around the battery structure and the O&M building. All lights will be downward facing and in accordance with the Illuminating Engineering Society handbook. Won't go through all this, all the details here, but really, essentially, this is a big slide that's meant to say, this project was signed up, in 2017. We have been able to, I wasn't here in 2018. I've been at Cypress for about 3 years, but in 2018, all the studies and everything that was part of the approval criteria was complete then. And so since this, refreshed kind of process has kicked off, we have been able to update, redo our entire scope plus more. And so all of our topographic surveys, geotechnical, power load testing, all things like that have been updated in just the past quarter. Obviously here today for zoning, mineral, we have a full mineral report broken down from our mineral experts. We were able to come to agreements with every single mineral owner, so we do have accommodation or surface waiver on all of the minerals. Field surveys and environmental reports are all completed as well. We'll talk about taxes on a future slide. And then procurement and construction, we do have an EPC contract with McCarthy. And we'll talk about them here in just a little bit as well. Agency coordination, I think Jennifer did a great job of representing this, but essentially we have been in contact and approved and reviewed by the appropriate agencies for this project. This is a list of not even every study, but I just bolded just a couple that I think are super important that we've had questions throughout this entire process. And the first is a traffic analysis. All these are just recently updated as part of this as well. Habitat and Wildlife Survey Report, Vegetation Management Plan, which is part of Kiowa Fire Department's solar checklist that must be submitted to them and they have approved. Dust Control Plan, Drainage Report, and then a decommissioning plan and estimate. So our site map, I wanted to point out a couple things that have just, been, I guess, larger topics with our site plan. And so the first thing is 4 things that CPW mentioned, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The first thing is the sliding gates for animal egress. They felt that if anything ever did somehow get trapped within the fence, that sliding gates would be the most preferred way to get them out. They actually asked us as well to put game cameras on site, and so we were able to agree to that. So there is game cameras that will be on site. And then you'll see kind of the wildlife corridor that Jennifer pointed out on the south side of the backwards L shape. That is a corridor that was recommended to us. I do understand that Kiowa Creek is on the west side of Kiowa Bennett Road. And so they actually asked us to circle rounded fences within the inside of the project boundary. Main reason for that was if anything was ever migrating or trying to get water from Kiowa Creek, they would actually follow the fence line rather than a direct 90-degree angle and get trapped. And so if they follow that fence line, it actually will open them right up into that wildlife corridor. Throughout our coordination with CORE, main thing there was just relocating batteries to be right adjacent to the substation. That's obviously the most optimal way to have the batteries set up. Setbacks, as previously mentioned, we are 1,000-foot setback from Kiowa Bennett Road, 200-foot setback from property lines and 154. Previously, that was 150. We increased that through the community meeting process. We felt that was extremely important from some of the comments that we got. And then we are 10 times the required setback from Kiowa Bennett. And then cultural avoidance, we are avoiding all recommended cultural sites on this project. Frequently asked questions. I think we've spent enough time on the fence, and we can talk more about questions, but the main thing here is that there is a balance between site security, wildlife safety, and visual screening. All three of those things have to kind of work together, and so that is the main reason that we have gone back to CPW in the past couple weeks and asked for them to be amendable on fence color, because we do sympathize with the county and are able to realize that is something that is extremely important. 8 foot high, as mentioned, the green color was the standard screen color for Elbert County, but we have gotten confirmation beige and brown are options as well. Construction operations is another frequently asked question. So McCarthy is a trusted EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction. They do the full cycle. And they have extensive experience across the U.S., gigawatts across the United States, but just specifically in Colorado, have built over 660 megawatts to date. They also their projects power over 107,000 total homes in Colorado. They've created over 8,000 jobs just related to building solar projects. And they are very similar to Cypress Creek in where they have their own kind of community ongoing things going on as well throughout the project. And so just to date, $306 million invested in the state of Colorado from McCarthy projects. Portable toilets will be used during construction, septic during operations. I did have communication with Elbert County Public Health, and we're able to get that approved for septic during operations. 24/7, 365 surveillance from Cypress Creek's headquarters in Durham, North Carolina. I think that's extremely important. So the 24/7, 365 cameras are there's folks sitting in a room in our headquarters, essentially making sure the project's putting out what it's supposed to be putting out and making sure that there's no issues. There's also the game cameras on site, and there will also be O&M people that are full-time staff on site. And then that little sub-bullet I think is even more important. It's just a fourth measure. Core also has Pano AI cameras showcasing all angles of the Kiowa substation. Currently, that has been much before Sundance, but they are out there now. The Pano AI cameras, they are smoke detecting cameras that will notify emergency personnel directly. And so these were extremely important. And just a couple weeks ago in the Woodland Park Turkey Tracks fire, the Pano AI cameras out there were actually the first sensitivity of any sort of smoke. It obviously wasn't related to a project, but just in the horizon. And it was actually the very first notice to be delivered to air support. And so they were able to call air support in before any physical personnel were even notified. And so these Pano AI cameras, really the point of them is they're extremely important, and this substation will be able to see our entire project. Sundance Solar and Battery, 12 to 15 months of construction. We've talked about that. Once operational, the project is largely self-sufficient. And then, as mentioned, the O&M staff that's on site for this project size, about 4 people, be pretty much doing things like vegetation management, panel washing every 3 years, making sure the project is acting how it's supposed to act. The hauling route, you'll see this picture on the right, we're pretty much coming directly up Kiowa Bennett during construction. The peak of traffic will be temporary during construction. So it's 12 to 15 months for construction. Again, after that, 1 trip per month per less, very self-sufficient. We'll have our O&M folks, which will be local, but that's only up to four jobs. So really, peak of traffic will be temporary during construction. Decommissioning, per county standards, Cypress Creek and Sundance Solar have completed a decommissioning cost estimate. I do understand that this is required to be updated every 5 years, and so we just actually got this updated pretty recently. I did get those split out with our third-party expert on solar and battery, just in case, and I wanted to showcase that. $2.68 billion currently for solar, $715,000 total for battery. So total around $3.4 million. That will be updated every 5 years. Cypress Creek is also solely liable to remove all project materials after the project has started construction and is in operation. So it's not on the county, it's not on the landowner, it's not on anybody. It is on Cypress Creek to remove everything. We are required to keep that bond in place for the life of the facility, as Jennifer mentioned. And then something super important with projects of this nature is the land is able to return to previous agricultural use after project completion. Just a couple slides left. Economic benefits. So these are things that are directly attributable to Sundance Solar and storage. So you see that graphic on the right essentially shows the estimated cumulative county revenue over 40 years. So the current use, the current zoned agricultural use, if left, as it is, about $16,000 over the next 40 years in cumulative revenue. Our proposed solar project will increase that $16,000 to just over $9.8 million in cumulative county revenue And we'll talk about what that means on the next slide. In addition to that, we also do, as Jennifer mentioned, the 2% construction fee, and so that is $3.4 million for our project. That is a fee that has to be paid before we start construction, and we are expected to mobilize in July. So that $3.4 million will be coming to the county before we mobilize in July. And then lastly, we have completed an economic and fiscal contribution analysis, what we call socioeconomic analysis, by a third-party economic expert, and it does include the best value employment matrix, which are a state requirement. A little bit more on economic benefits. So we talked about the 9.8 in cumulative tax revenue. Jobs are also another thing that's important. Sundance Solar, this project about this size, is estimated about 150 to 250 full-time jobs during construction. I think that's it's all included, but it's kind of a separate economic benefit as well. That 12 to 15 months for these construction folks are using things like Elbert County restaurants, Elbert County material needs and grocery stores and things of that nature. So it's a little bit separate, but it's all part of the same project. And then we'll also have 4 permanent O&M folks as well. Homes powered, project of this size, about 15,000 total homes powered on the core system. And then that far right graphic is, I probably should have done this a little backwards, but it's talking about what that 9.8 million goes to. So $3.7 million goes to Kiowa School District, $1.5 million to Kiowa Fire District, $1.5 million to Road and Bridge, $400K to Elbert County Library, plus more. We do have a full split out, and would love to share that with folks after the meeting if folks choose. And again, this is separate from the $3.4 million construction cost. That is a separate fee. Community involvement, making a long-term meaningful community investment in Elbert County. So community involvement, Cypress Creek, here at Cypress Creek, we have what we call a good neighbor commitment. It is not taken lightly. It is a policy. It is required. It is what we do on every single project. That picture on the top left is myself and Chief Lemansky at Kiowa Fire District just a couple weeks ago. And so our commitments have included donations to Kiowa Fire District, the Stampede Rodeo, Elbert County Fair. We've sponsored now 3 years in a row. We just sent that off this week. Elbert County 4-H just had the gala 2 weeks ago. Elbert County Wranglers, First Responders Day, scholarships, and other things. This is a big part of the project. This is the big part of the long-term commitment. This is a part of how we work on all of our projects, making sure that we're partnering with the community. Picture on the right showcases, I think that was our first community meeting, but we did have 2 community meetings in Elbert County. One was in September, one was in October. Again, that second one, although not required, we wanted to make sure that folks had an ample amount of opportunity to ask questions or voice concerns or even just educate themselves. And so we did come back for a second meeting just to make sure folks that felt that way as well. So Cypress Creek has awarded $12,000 in scholarships to high school students, high school seniors, since 2023. The picture on the right there is myself and 2 students back in June of 2023 from Simla High School. I did Elizabeth High School back in 2024 summer, and then we actually just awarded 2 scholarships just a couple weeks ago for this summer program. As part of this ongoing commitment that we're talking about here today, we are committed to the entire life of the project. So this will be a 40-year commitment. It's representative of about $200,000 in scholarships for young people in Elbert County, and we are fully committed to our scholarship commitment throughout the entire operational life of the project. So that's scholarships, and then just to date, outside of scholarship, we have invested about over $50,000 in Elbert County through sponsorships and things of that nature. Our team is really focused on what we call a community working group for Elbert County. We do this for a lot of projects. And so essentially what this is we feel, we have been in this community, we have had boots on the ground, we are talking to folks. A lot of our donations are based off of feedback from the community. But this is actually a kind of a newer organization that we are kicking off now to make sure that we are investing and donating and sponsoring things that are truly important to folks in this room, folks on the commission. And so, this is meant to be a one-way street for feedback, and so that our community donations are truly important. We are investing an additional $300,000 in the first 3 years with construction, and so the $300,000 in the first 3 years, along with the $200,000 from scholarships, represents $500,000 in community investments for the county over the project. Summary and closing. In summary, Sundance Solar and Storage, 1041 and SUR applications were submitted back in January, were deemed complete just in that 28-day window. We have been told and we're able to address, and we have met all Elbert County approval criteria for the 1041 and SUR. County staff has also issued final reports and staff reports and recommended approval with conditions. And then the agency comments here that you see are things that came up. This is a total list. So here's all the agency comments we received, and we were able to acknowledge each and every one. And then that bottom one, obviously, as Jennifer mentioned, the road use agreement is scheduled to be finalized in the next couple of days. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time. I wanted to end on this slide, and we just updated this recently as well. We did create a website, SundanceSolarProject.com, as well as a 24-hour phone number. If you email that email, and I can hand out that later to folks, but that will go straight to my email, so we are available for questions. And with your permission, I'd like to call up CORE.
Okay, I got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you said a berm 5 feet
Yes, sir.
high is not advised. Why is that? Is it?
So what they said is that what CPW recommended is that if they do a 5-foot berm, they have to have the 8-foot tall fence on top of the berm, making it a 13-foot total height, which kind of went back to the entanglement of wildlife over 8 foot.
Okay.
It was kind of 2
And
in
then
1.
the fencing, you said is eyesore. What this? And then you talked a little bit about no trees. Trees are not recommended.
Not recommended. It was in CPW stance much more of and internally we talked about it as well, but much more of a fire and water usage would exponentially increase water usage. And so we have gotten a lot of feedback about water usage to the community, and I do understand that. And so we decided to not advise it.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Buck, you got any questions?
I probably have about 30 to 40 minutes of questions. Do we want to have public comment? Do we want to start asking them now and get into it now? Or how do we want to proceed? I'll be happy to get into it if you want.
I think we stay in order, but before you start, Commissioner Schroeder, how many questions do you have? Just a couple. I'm going to let him go first if that's all right, and then we'll let you have the floor.
And if he's got 30, I might request a comfort break when I get done.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you for the presentation, very thorough.
Thank you.
I know as we've received different emails from folks, there's been some additional concerns that have been brought up. So if you could address a couple of those, I would appreciate it. One, the slide was on what the panels are made up of, the different 4 or 5 different materials. And there's a concern that if and when one of those breaks, there might be some contamination into the ground. Can you address that concern?
I will hand that off to the engineering team.
Okay.
Hi, the modules we're using have been tested and there's no leaching found from them, even from breakage.
Okay, so that's 100% safe.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then another question, there's been a lot of concern on fire issues with these. And I don't know if the Cairo Fire Department was going to be making a specific presentation or not. I noticed that we have
We have them in the public comment.
in the office. Okay. Of course, this project was approved back in 2018.
Correct.
Prior to any of us being here. And so, but the main difference, as I understand it, between this application and that application is the battery storage.
Yes, sir.
And originally, I had quite some concerns with that as well, and how a fire would be dealt with there. I had the opportunity at our commissioner conference in December to attend a panel breakout session at our conference that was specifically about battery storage, and learned way more about battery storage than I ever thought I would. But the recommendation there from the gentleman who's been with battery storage for a long, long time was that the best practice in the industry is to kind of let that individual compartment burn and just trying to keep it from spreading. Is that kind of the idea for this project?
Yes, sir. And that kind of goes into the container-based batteries that we were talking about. Each one will be, insurance is a part of that as well, right? They have to be a certain amount of feet away from each other, separated by concrete pads. And so they are containerized, each with a cooling system. And the point of that is to, pretty much, if that were to ever happen, the best thing to do is let it ride.
Okay, so they will be on concrete pads. How much bigger than the unit will the pad be, around it. So, is there an industry standard or anything with that?
I'd say that our design is absolutely going to be adequate to support the batteries for the life of the project, and I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Okay. Well, it looked like the picture that was put up there had gravel or something on it, so I'm just.
Yeah, those are piles versus concrete pads.
With where it's at, but this will be an actual concrete pad.
Is that a question about fire safety and?
Partly,
how
yes.
it might propagate?
Yes.
Okay, so there certainly won't be flammable materials around the containers. So these are going to be maintained to eliminate any flammable materials that may cause that fire to propagate.
So I'm imagining, I saw in the packet that there'll be different weed control methods used, and so the grasses that grow up next to the edge of the pad will be kept at a minimum.
That's correct.
Height to keep them going. Okay.
That's correct.
There's a lot of, I understand that you are self-supported on the financing aspect of it. Is there federal funding that comes along with this project?
There is no federal funding per se for this project, but there are what are called tax credits available for the project. So under the current Inflation Reduction Act legislation, there's what's called a tech-neutral or technology-neutral tax credit. It's available to solar, to wind, to geothermal, and other qualifying technologies. So that makes up a part of the financing structure for this project.
Are you dependent on that credit? Or if it went away, DOJ goes to looking and says we don't want this anymore, you're still financially able to make the project work?
We are, in part because we're qualified to receive it. So that those projects at the federal level get phased out over time, and there is actually a consideration of that at this time, but that would not affect this project.
Not this project, okay.
Yeah, and important, so debt equity and tax equity are the three components, but that tax equity operates in an interesting way. It allows an investor to pay less federal taxes by investing in projects like this one.
Understood. Okay, thank you. And how close are we on a road use agreement? I'm not sure if that's for staff or for the applicant.
We're going to have some.
Yeah, I can speak to that. There is a draft agreement out there, and you know, the understanding or where we're at is that we would finalize that with an approval. Moving forward, there is a draft ready to go, and I have spoken with members of their legal team. But there's a couple of questions that we needed to sort out, and there is a draft, so we're ready to go.
Okay. I'll add too, we just got the turn in our court, I believe yesterday, the day before, from Road and Bridge Department. So our legal team is reviewing it, and we'll be getting it back ASAP.
Okay, and maybe, I don't know how detailed this gets in the public sense. Obviously, Kaya Bennett could be affected. County Road 154 affected. I assume they'll be part of the road use agreement. From what it looked like one of the major avenues to get to the site was to come through the town of Kiowa and up Kiowa Bennett Road. Has the town of Kiowa been talked to? I know that stretch from the highway to getting out of town sometimes can get pretty rough. Has there been any talk with the town of Kiowa to help with some improvements with that?
So I can answer your question as to whether Kiowa Bennett is part of the road use agreement. It is. It is something that I've spoken with the Public Works Director about on the specifics that are needed with regard to reviewing the county roads. As far as the interaction with the town, I don't know if that is something that the Public Works Director has done. I know I haven't spoken with the town. So that's an unknown for me.
Okay. And also make a comment, I appreciate all the effort that went into putting the packet together, both from staff and the applicant. Over 2,000 pages worth of studies and write-ups is a lot. And so from that aspect, I appreciate that. I do appreciate the effort to be a good community partner and to think that there could perhaps be scholarships generated for over 40 years from this project is one of the positives that I can see out of this. So that's all the questions that I have at this time, but I'll reserve to ask more.
All right, sir.
Yeah, let's we'll jump right into fire since that seems to be everybody's concern. I have an email here from Jerry Lemansky, our fire chief, to Zach Bartholomew, and he references there will be no charge for fire impact fees despite the inherent hazards up to and including wildfires. So the other comment I have in regards to that, so he's insinuating there's some inherent hazards by that statement. The other statement that you made just today was there was going to be no trees in the form of buffering because of the inherent danger with wildfires. So I'm kind of hearing two things. Hey, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. But then in the same breath, I'm hearing, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of inherent danger, or some inherent dangers here, that this might not be that safe. So I'm kind of confused. Can you address that conflict?
I'm not sure how much I can address the conflict of that, but I mean, so I think part of that is in the past 2 weeks, a lot of the concerns and feedbacks that we have gotten is really going into, because vegetation buffers and trees and things of that nature, it's a thing that's talked about on all of our projects, and it differs in different counties and different states on projects. And so for this specific project, I think, we were able to settle that would increase fire risk and water usage, and so that's why that's why as part of the presentation, we were kind of staying away from it.
Okay. I'm not sure that answered my question, but we can go into buffering and trees a little bit.
Sure.
I understand that you don't want to incur more water usage and that sort of thing. You're already going to be trucking water down for dust suppression and cleaning panels, and that water's coming from off-site. So I understand that you don't want to truck more water in for additional trees. I'm real big on buffering. Anybody on staff knows, and anybody here at the county knows I'm big on buffering. But you're saying that the fence is 8 feet high, and the panels are going to be 15 feet high when they are fully tilted at 60 degrees. So basically double the size of that fence, almost.
Yeah, and that's only at morning and late night because the panels essentially are trackers, and so they track with the sun.
So I got that. And when they were fully tilted, how much time are they fully tilted, or morning and evening?
Just morning. Just morning. So during the day when it's sunny outside, they're meant to be flat and optimizing the sun.
But at certain times, they will be up to 15 feet.
Sorry.
Just stepping in for a second. They are actually 15 feet maximum, so that's only depending on the ground at the current location. If there's dips and dives, that's from that ground to that point. So typically, they're not going to be at 15 feet. That's only at the highest of points.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I was just trying to put it all together with the 8-foot fence and the 15 feet tall panels, and wanted to cut with no trees or bufferings other than the fence. So I just kind of wanted to put that all together in my mind. Just a couple observations. The first thing that was brought up was there is no relation, association, or dependence with Xcel Energy Power Pathway. So I appreciate that, distancing yourself from that project because you're not involved with that project. The only concern I have is the residents in the area, they can't distance themselves from that project. That project potentially could be in that same vicinity. We haven't heard that yet, and it's an open application, so we can't discuss that. But it's near here by proximity. So I appreciate that you wanted to distance yourself from it, but it's near that location. So just wanted to get that out there. Throughout your presentation, or that we've received, if you have a comment.
Yeah, I'm with Core Electric.
Okay.
To actually clarify that.
Sure.
This project I'm Brooks Coffey with Core Electric Cooperative and the Lands and Rights Way manager, but this project is really for our members in Elbert County. This is what it's going to serve, is the people in Elizabeth, Kiowa, the western side of Elbert County. This is what this project's for. So it's not affiliated with Pathways at all. It's for our members and the people that live here in Elbert County.
Yeah, I understand that. And he also mentioned, Zach mentioned that on page 16, during 2018 to 2023, there wasn't a need for the project. And one of the thoughts is all of the citizens in the county currently have electricity. They currently have power. So to me, it says it's for future residents of the county and future demand. Not for current demand, but for future demand. Is that correct?
It's actually for current demand. And the way you have to look at that is that the state mandated that by 2030, that we have to have 80% renewables. So this is a mandate that's happened since then.
80%?
80% has to be renewables on our system. And so this is a great partner to have that, where it actually directly impacts Elbert County and the members that we serve. So it's not for just the future, it's for today. This is something that we can put on our system when people turn on their ACs at 4 o'clock to about 8 o'clock at night. This is where this product can be used very wisely and keep those rates down. That's when you want to, we're trying to benefit the members here.
So you're saying to keep those rates down, so do you anticipate any reduction in the rates, or
No.
They stay stable
I
then?
couldn't tell you that. I mean, it's going to help that matter.
It's going to help what?
It's going to help the matter of keeping the rates down. And when people, you have demand charges, when everybody turns on their AC at a certain time, 4 to 8 o'clock, that's when your meter's going real fast, and that's when it's called demand charge. This is kind of stuff that can actually help that. We can bring this onto our system, especially with the batteries. It has 4 hours of capability, about 50 megawatts, that we can use at certain times of the day, where you got the solar, it's really running well. You can store that energy and then put it on the system when people are coming home, especially in the summer. That's when a lot of this will get used, and it helps. It offsets a lot of that, where we're going to have to go to open market and pay for transmission costs and stuff like that. This is something that can directly impact the residents here in Elbert County. That's how we're looking at it. We wanted to be a good partnership, and we thought this is a great company to be with to help us out with this.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
So the other comments throughout the, go ahead.
Sorry, Commissioner Buck, if I may, I want to readdress the fire question that came up earlier, because I'm not sure we sufficiently answered your question. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Jordan Bunch. I am outside counsel for Cypress. And you were talking about the inherent tension between, we're saying these batteries are safe, they don't pose a fire hazard, and the concern about planting trees, because that could increase the fire hazard. And these batteries, I think as Zach spoke to earlier, are specifically designed to mitigate fire risk. That's why they're in those individual containers. There are fire suppression systems in each of those containers. They're surrounded by inflammable material. We have done everything in the design of this project to minimize any potential fire risk. But as we all know, I'm a native of eastern Colorado. We all know how this works. There can be grass fires, there can be plain fires, there can be forest fires.
There could be electrical fires.
There can be, sure. There can be all sorts of fires. And what we are worried about is, what if there's a fire not from the solar plant, not from the batteries, just coming across the plains, and we have added significant fuel by planting a bunch of trees. And we know from comments from the community that that is a concern. So we don't want to unintentionally provide fuel for a potential fire for screening that we feel we can accomplish with a fence. So it's not a tension that we didn't want to build the trees because we think the batteries will cause fires. We actually believe that risk is mitigated.
From outside, you're more concerned about outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, great additional detail. But these facilities are absolutely designed, solar and battery energy storage, to be minimally risky, to be as fire resistant as possible. And our incentives to make sure that they are fire safe are aligned with the community's incentives to make sure that they are. We're required by our insurance providers, by our financing partners, through the independent engineers that evaluate those projects, and by our company code. We will build the safest projects possible.
So I did see in the packet, I don't remember what study, out of the 2,000 pages that it was. There was a study in there that talked about installation, and it talked about expansive soils. It talked about different types of issues when you're installing them, and if they're not installed properly, they can move potentially and different things, and potentially have an electrical spark, that could then create a fire. So that was mentioned in one of the studies as a potential fire risk.
Yeah, are you referring to how the panels track the sun? So
I think it was the foundations. I think it was the foundations and how they were installed in the ground.
Okay.
And it talked about the soil.
Yeah, I'm not. Sorry, go ahead.
So I don't remember. I didn't highlight that page. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any risk associated with the foundations themselves, but I'm not.
Good.
I'm not an engineer.
Good.
But our incentives are aligned with yours. I think to the point, we don't want any fire coming from the outside to propagate through the facility. The facilities are maintained to reduce and eliminate any potential flammable materials on site because we don't want it to burn. So, yeah.
I just knew that was a concern, so I started with that, and we had already talked about it a little bit from the other board members. The next thing I want to ask you about is property values of the neighbors. Throughout the document that we read, it says, hey, there's virtually no difference based on our studies on a property that's, or it's negligible versus something that's near a solar facility or something that's further away from a solar facility. Do you have any documentation or something or studies that prove that? I didn't see it. I heard you stated that. I heard you talk about that in the packet, but I didn't see any verifiable studies that you could show us or present to us to put people at ease.
We can certainly provide those, and we will do that. There are third-party studies that have been performed by groups like NREL, the National Renewable Energy Labs, and by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories. These are groups that study broad impacts of solar projects on neighboring property values. And generally what they find is that the data are inconclusive either way. So statistically significant changes in property values up or down are really not there. I think there's a perception that there's going to be a strong negative impact on property values, neighboring properties, but the data don't show that to be.
So I did some research, and there was a study. I didn't get the name of the study, but I think it was 1.8 million people had been surveyed that had lived around different facilities. So it was a pretty exhaustive study, and there was some impact. It wasn't huge. It wasn't 20%. I think it was 3 to 7%. So it wasn't big, and it talked about distances as well. Yeah. If you're within a half mile, you might have some issues. If you're farther, it's not as much. So I was just wondering if you had any studies that you could present to us and say, hey, this is what we did. This is what our company's done in the past. Here's what the data shows. You don't have any of that you can share with us today, though?
Yeah. We can share those with you. I don't have them printed or available here, but I can certainly.
I know that's a concern. I think that was on the slides as a concern in the community meetings and during the planning commission meeting. I think that was some of the things that was concerning to people. So I thought I would ask about that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of wrap up on that too is, and we can get you that too, Commissioner Buck. But one thing in particular is, back to our total company footprint, 850 projects, 22 states. We have in 11 years not received a complaint about adjacent property values yet as well. We also work with companies that are, development. They sign up the land for us, and they've signed up thousands of acres, and have not had a complaint either to this point. But would love to get you some of that information.
Yeah, I think you guys should have that data and just be bragging on it. I mean, if it's saying what you're saying, that would be something I'd be waving around at. Hey, look, don't worry about it. Here's all the data. Here's all the surveys we've done. I think that would strengthen your case. One of the things I want to talk about as well is traffic. So we got a traffic report here. It talks about vehicle weight It talks about average vehicle trips per day, maximum vehicle trips per day, and it goes into the different weights of the different trucks and the different types of vehicles that'll be visiting or working construction on this particular project. So, for example, you have material and equipment. First of all, we have a road that's been labeled as in fair condition. I think we can all assume, best case, it's probably fair condition. Okay. So possibly fair, maybe. But with that in mind, we are going to have up to 40 trips per day with trucks of 20,000 to 50,000 pounds. And for 6 months, that would be 4,800 trips. The other, during the installation process, that's during the construction, material and equipment delivery. Then you go into 70 trips per day during the installation process. If you take that 5 days a week, I'm assuming a 5-day work week. I don't know how many days a week you guys work, but, and that's for 12 months, and that equals roughly 16,800 trips. So we're saying in our study here, or in our report, no impact. Based on anticipated vehicle type and weight, the project is not anticipated to degrade or damage Elbert County roads. That's a lot of trips and a lot of weight, and I'm not a traffic expert, so I don't know if you guys have any. This was written by Moody Metry, project engineer.
Yeah, I'll just mention a couple of things. I do hear you on that as well. As also mentioned, that there is in our road use agreement that we're finalizing now, was done in 2018, but now we're updating it. There is actually a bond requirement as well within that road use agreement, in case any damages or anything like that.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's in draft form right now. It's not in final form, but it is based off of what was executed in 2018. It does contemplate looking at the current state of the road, reviewing the state of the roads that are utilized, both gravel and asphalt, during the pendency of construction, and requiring immediate repairs in cases where those are needed as a result of that, and then reviewing again after construction has been completed for mitigation purposes and repairs of the roads. So that is contemplated in the road use agreement.
Thank you. The other thing, and I'm almost done, guys. I'm sorry. Almost done. 5 more minutes.
All our questions.
So what I have here in front of me is a geotechnical engineering report from Terracon Geo Report. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. This is one of the reports you guys had done. In that report, very comprehensive report, I have a few issues with it, though. When it talks about foundations, it says a final site development plan was not provided at the time of this report. So it also goes on to say, design traffic loads and volumes were not available for our analysis. So is this the complete comprehensive report? It says the following design section does not take into account heavy traffic that may occur during construction. So what am I supposed to be getting from this report that's in the packet? None of this documents that they needed to conduct this report were given to them, in my opinion. And I can comment. So it just looks like they got incomplete information to conduct this report. They weren't given all the data they needed. In 3 different places in this report, they referenced that they were not given the documentation they needed to complete this report.
Yeah, and I think those are definitely something of concern. And so that report was created before we had an official site plan. But however, when it comes to foundations, we will be driving piles. So these are metal I-beams driven into the ground. And so going back to your fire question about what the foundations look like, so metal columns going into the ground. Each one of those columns will be tested for strength. We have a machine that comes, attaches to it to pull them out. Now, those are going to be the things that we really hang our hat on. When it comes to the geotech report, that does have excuse me, it goes back and it talks about what is in the ground. It talks about the soils and those type of things. When it comes to the traffic, right now we're currently working on the site development plan so that we could resubmit. We do have a civil contractor on board to address those issues because we do need to work with that geotech report for resistivity, for grounding purposes, to also to drive into the piles. We currently, as McCarthy, plan on driving mostly on the site for a couple reasons. Number one, we stay off your roads, and number two, it creates fire breaks in the site for safety purposes. So,
Fire's not a problem. See, you keep bringing up fire. You're concerning me.
well, fire in general, sir, when you're operating equipment out on the site, we want to make sure that we're doing it safely.
Yeah, there's
And so-
fuel, there's a lot of fuel. There's
fuel, we
sparks,
have
different
trucks,
things.
we have hot exhaust. And
I'm
so-
just teasing you.
Okay, sorry. So with the geotech report, I think those are small technicalities that they didn't have at the time to do the report, but we have current studies and professional engineers on board to answer any questions you
So
have.
do we have current studies in this regard? This was dated 2019, and it's in the packet. That was considerably a long time ago. But my concern is they're saying design traffic loads and volumes were not available. They did not take into account construction traffic. I mean, these are important issues.
And you said that was in 2018?
19.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't seen
can't
it,
speak
no.
to that.
We have an updated geotech report, so I'm not,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why this was,
we might have included both, or I'm not sure, but
one more question in regards to this report.
Yes, sir.
It talks about stripping and removing in site preparation, stripping and removing existing vegetation, organics, stripping of vegetation and topsoil may not be necessary at solar array areas where final grades will match existing grades. So it may be necessary to strip topsoil. And the reason I ask that, and the only reason I ask that, is if this is going to be put back to ag use after the project is completed and the topsoil has been stripped away, how would that go hand in hand?
Well, I can't speak specifically to that report, but we are working on a civil plan. And what we try to do with the solar field is to bring it to a level space to where we have ebbs and flows in elevation. And so we can take some of the fill and fill in some of the voids to make sure that our trackers and our arrays don't exceed certain angles. That brings efficiency to the plant, and then it also really makes the space viable. And as you notice, we're pretty symmetrical on our layouts, and so that helps us be symmetrical. Currently, that land does have irrigation or erosion barriers or whatnot. Jimmy, what are those called? The ditches for water retention and stuff like that. So some of that will have some effect. But for the most part, when we look at these sites, we're not going to go out and completely level it. We're actually using a next tracker system that is made for contour of land. But for the most part, we will be shifting soils on site. And now, when we're all said and done, when we have the field built out, we're going to come back and we're going to replant and bring it back to natural vegetation. And so that's part of our vegetation plan.
Decommissioning plan then, or is that while the site's being constructed?
Well, it's part of our vegetation plan, and so it'll be ongoing, but it'll be on the later part of the schedule.
Okay.
And so that's part of the maintenance and vegetation later on, that the 4 people out there that are going to be part of the O&M, they're going to be maintaining that landscape. But when it's all said and done, when McCarthy leaves, it'll be fully planted and grown up.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Just real quick on your topsoil question.
yeah.
So, just going to say, if we take a foot, if we have to cut something a foot, we go in, take the topsoil off, then cut it a foot and replace the topsoil. So the topsoil goes back so that we can plant into the existing topsoil.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Good, I like that. Thank you. So the last thing I have, and I'll finish, guys, and this is a more recent letter to our CDS director, and I think it's by Zach Bartholomew. It says, "The project will be compatible with surrounding properties in terms of scale, intensity, and environmental impact, ensuring no adverse effects on neighboring landowners or the public." So I noticed that was a concern with the community meetings or with the general public in regards to some of the letters we have in the packet, is what it does to, is how, and how that impacts them. Can you speak to that? Because we actually have a map here, Exhibit N on page 743, and it shows some of those residential. And I don't know if you want to pull that up or not, but it's page 743 of the 2,453 pages. But it talks a little bit about, you know, to that compatibility issue, and I know that was a concern for some of the neighbors.
You know, we make every effort to mitigate any impacts on the neighbors. We want to be a good neighbor, you know, for the project. And I think when we install appropriate fencing, you know, that's in response to neighbors' concerns and concerns we heard from the Planning Commission. You know, a 1,000-foot setback from Kiowa Bennett Road is a response to concerns about visual impact. But this project can't mitigate every visual impact, just like a housing development.
Yeah, I understand
in the area
that.
Can't mitigate every visual.
The reason I pulled this out was because it talked about scale, intensity, and I noticed that, and it's like, well, is it really scale? And what's the intensity? You know, so.
Yeah, a little bit more on that too. I think it's kind of like two answers, but you know, throughout the community feedback process, Lauren and myself specifically is on the community engagement side. Feedback is taken into account. We listen, we hear folks. We take that back to internal SMEs. We take that to CPW, whoever it's, you know, pertaining to. If at all in any way we can make a adjustment to the site plan to help folks, that's what we do. But I will mention, you know, that a solar project again can only be constructed on agriculturally zoned land. And so that is what this land is currently. It is on top of a substation. It is as optimal as can be as far as connecting to the grid. And so, you know, as what you're saying is totally important, but there is still a fine balance between, you know, that and the requirement that it has to be on agriculturally zoned land.
And I'll end with this. But I reserve the right to ask more questions later after we go further. But I did notice we have some photographic documentation of the site. There was no photograph of the house on that corner of 154 and 86. I was disappointed. We took pictures of a shed. The photographic documentation made it look like it was a deserted area. And there's a home right there. So that was one of my concerns. That was the closest one, and it was right nearby, within a few hundred feet, and it was photographed around that home and not included in the photographic evidence.
Can you point it out on this?
No, not on that. I mean, it's right there on the corner where it turns into 154. Right. There's a home there.
Because the visual rendering analysis is it's simulations of our site more than.
This was actual photos. The simulation photo, I noticed the simulation photos where the 200 feet looked about the same as the 1,000 feet, so I thought it was a little disingenuous, and I don't want to insult you guys, but it looked like it was farther than 200 feet in the simulations. And then you shot around that farmhouse right there. So concerning, just thought I'd mention it.
Acknowledged. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
All right. We'll open this up to, what's that? You wanna do it right? Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. All right, we're going to recess for about 10 minutes from the line downstairs, and our apologies, we're having to redo our restrooms there, so it limited it to one. So I think we're good to go, so we'll get back in session here. And before we do that, Jennifer, you had a couple things you wanted to bring up real quick.
Yes, sir, I just wanted to clarify. I did pull up the geotechnical report. It is dated 2019, but it was updated in 2024.
Do we have the 2024 in there and I missed it?
Yes,
Or was
sir.
it just another study that was,
Well, it says revised 2024, so. Is that copy, I guess, the one we have, is that the most recent?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
okay, so they're both in there?
There should be this one in there. You're right, there were two versions in there because one with all the exhibits, it had some legibility issues. So I added this one at the end, and so this version is absolutely in there.
Okay, I must have missed it. Yeah. I'd like to read that again.
All right, so before we open this up to public comments, just going to let everyone know we've got a hard stop at 4 o'clock today. However, we will pick back up at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning here, same place, okay? All right, with that, I've got a list here of a couple of some people here who would like to come up and speak. So the first one is Linda. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Eman. I'm a fifth-generational Elbert County resident, lifetime for myself, and my husband and I, David, own this property. So I just wanted to tell you that we're all for the solar farm. We need more electricity with all the housing developments coming out. This project would use no water, have no lights, except, wouldn't be bothering people. The biggest problem I have is with developments is across from me are motorcycle jumping constantly, dogs barking constantly. This solar farm would present none of those problems. The electrical substation was already there when we purchased that land 35 years ago. So this isn't, let's get rich deal. This was already in the workings, and to have the solar farm come in, I mean, it's a win-win for all of us here. The schools, the rodeos, everything will benefit from this solar farm. And I just really ask you to please respect our property rights. We have the right to do what we need to with that property. It's designated, has to be on agricultural land. So that was the ruling of the county. So I would ask you to please respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next person I have here, I think is Craig. Sir?
Yes, sir. My name's Craig Arcan. I'm with the McCarthy Companies, and I'm here today to talk about the Sundance project. Just a little background on McCarthy Companies. We've been around since 1864. I noticed up here Elbert County was established in 1874. So we've been around about 10 years, a little longer than Elbert. And the reason we're around that long is we're a great EPC builder, but we're also employee-owned. We have a legacy company that we're here to build. And we do this, and we pride ourselves to be the best builder in America. And with 161 years behind us, we're not just some company coming in, building a project and leaving. We're actually rooted here in the Rockies. We have an office downtown Denver. We have approximately 60 employees in Colorado. And this project is very important to us because it keeps our people here local, working and employed. We operate from some core values, which are genuine, we, not I, and all in. When we say we, not I, it's the community, it's everybody in this room. This project is important not only to McCarthy or Cypress, but it's important to the community. And it's about energy security. And the thing that I love about this project, more than most, is that it benefits Elbert County. Just like the hospitals we build, the wastewater treatment plants we build, the schools, the higher education, the sporting events, we do this because it's for the community. And we feel like this is a great partnership with Cypress Creek. They are not offloading this. They're going to keep it and own it and operate it for the 40 years of its existence. And I think that's a rare thing nowadays with development in Colorado. So we built 660 megawatts of homes, enough for about 108,000 homes here in Colorado. And we work across a national group from Illinois, Texas, Arizona. And so this is what we do. This is one of the bigger verticals that McCarthy does. And The way that we'll bring some benefit into this is that we pride ourselves on safety. We've talked a little bit about the fire plans and the ERPs, the site safety. These are things we do no matter what the conversation is, because number one, we're held responsible for what we do. And we're employee owners. We all own this place and we all feel the weight of that. So making sure that this is the right deal is very critical for us. I talked about energy security. You know, this will supply enough power for 15,000 homes here in Elbert County. I've watched this board approve some other developments. Elbert County's found out, and it's only 7 miles down the road from Elizabeth, and look at what Elizabeth is. You're in a line of progression. Having this power now, I think, would be a smart move on a personal level, but also for us as McCarthy, we want to draw on the people living in this county. We want to bring them in and give them training through our apprenticeship programs and have them be a part of this project and build. And when they're done, continue to build, if it's a hospital, data center, or what have you, with McCarthy, wherever they would like to go. So we open up for local jobs. We're going to have about 100 to 200 positions available. We will be pulling from the Colorado local market here. We pay above scale. We currently have 4 apprenticeship programs: electricians, laborers, mechanical, and carpenters. It takes 4 years to get your journeyman license, and you can travel across this fine United States of America and go to work anywhere when you got that license in your back pocket. And I know there's some hardworking Americans that are in this county, so could definitely benefit from it. And then, of course, with that many workers coming to this community, we're going to need lodging, we're going to need gas, we're going to need food, beverages. Just the sheer amount of lunches that we cater into our job trailers will keep somebody definitely busy for the next 12 to 15 months. So I appreciate being here. I appreciate being a part of this project. I think it's unique, and I'm proud to be a part of Colorado. And we're for this project. Obviously, it benefits us, and we're here to make sure it benefits everybody. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, sir. Next person on the list is Deanna Miller. Hello.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Deanna Miller, and I live at 13995 County Road 154. And I'm just going to speak for the neighbors. We're not just a few people here and there. There's a neighborhood up at the top of 154. And what I'm most concerned about for myself and my neighbors is there's only one exit out of 154. So if there were to be an emergency of any type, we have only one exit. If there were to be a fire, and I appreciate what the fire department has done, but if there were to be a fire and we get stuck back there, we and our animals are locked in. We have nowhere to go. So it'd be very, very helpful if some way or another they could provide a way for us to have another exit. Excuse me. But in addition to that is getting in and out of that dirt road when there's all the construction going on and all this huge equipment on that little dirt road. It's going to take us a long time to get out in the mornings, to get home at night. In addition to that, the panels are following the sun, so there's going to be a huge reflection. So in the mornings when we're trying to go to school or to work, we're going to be blinded by reflection coming home the same way. So that's a concern. The other thing is, I don't know if anyone considered the wind that we have up there. We have terrible wind, and it's almost every day, a lot of wind. So when they go to do the construction, there's going to be a lot of dirt up in the air, floating around, and it's my understanding when it reaches a certain level, then they have to stop, bring in trucks to water it down so that the dirt comes down. Okay, so that's going to make this project last longer than 12 to 15 months if they have to keep stopping every time the wind blows terrible. So just to consider that. The other thing, and again, it's the fire issue. but we're not that far from a school. You know, there's an elementary school, a high school connected. It's like maybe 5 miles away. And 10 years ago, we had a brush fire, and it came across the prairie in minutes. And it was, the flames were this high, and it was coming fast. Had there not been a sudden rain happen, it would have taken us out. And if those solar panel things are in there in the path, it's not going to be good. So I'm just concerned about the kids at the school and us being able to get out with our animals if there's an emergency. Okay? So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Josh?
Hi, good afternoon. Josh Odendahl. I live at 13653 Windling Trail. I am a Denver firefighter, and I'm here speaking on behalf of my 23 years, not representing any fire department. But that being said, I am the Special Ops Assistant Chief for Denver, so handle their hazmat, high angle dive, et cetera. So, you know, when we talk about fire safety, right, I'm employed because stuff happens. If things were just perfect every time, like I wouldn't have a job, right? Job security. But I wanted to talk a little bit about where this is in relation to Kiowa, and I know the Cap will talk about it a little more in his response, but here's some facts, right? We have a fire at this solar farm. We have a fire nearby. Their response time, 7 to 10 minutes. Well, that doesn't include the time for the caller to make it to 911. 911 gets to Douglas County, comes back. Now they're a volunteer fire department too, right? So where are these people coming from? Coming from home, from work? Is it the middle of the night? So, you know, we're looking at response times 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending on what it takes to get there just to the firehouse. Now, look at the water concerns. So an average fire hose, 200 gallons a minute. I'm just making that nice and easy. A water tender, which that's where they would get their water from, 1,000 to 4,000 gallons. So if you're flowing 200 gallons a minute, that's 1,000 gallons in 5 minutes. So now we have a huge relay operation just to get water to that area, just to be able to even pretend to fight this fire. And the reason I say pretend is you're looking at lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries have a thing, propagation and thermal runoff. So when a lithium battery catches fire, it's almost like, the best way to describe it is like a missile or a firecracker. It starts to heat up, and it's not just a little flame. It starts to burn with like an intense heat, which causes other things. Now, I know that they have talked about, you know, their containers, and that's great. But when these things go, like, it's going to burn hot, going to burn quick. And I'll give you an example. When we have an EV fire, electric vehicle fire in Denver, which is lithium ion, we really don't put it out. Thousands of gallons a minute on a single car fire. And then we get it down to where we can put a thermal blanket on it. We put that thermal blanket down, and then we transport it to somewhere where either A, we let it burn, or B, we have to submerge it in water. So you can see the concerns that we have with, you know, these ion batteries just catching fire, and there's really no way to put it out. Now, if we do fight that fire and we're dumping thousands of gallons of water on it, Kiowa Creek is just down the street, right? Where is this runoff going? Where are all these chemicals, hydrocarbons being burned from the solar panels, the batteries? All this stuff has to go somewhere, right? So even on a small car fire, we're calling the Department of Environmental Health in Denver just because we're concerned with things getting in our water system. That's a different water system in Denver than we have here, right? Everybody's on wells. That stuff leaches into the grounds. Now it's spreading out. Everybody around here is drawing from that for their drinking water, for their cattle, for whatever. So to me, that's a big concern. Like, where is this going? How is it mitigated? And, you know, how are we going to keep it out of the creek? And then another thing with fighting fire, right? Solar panels. I don't have them on my house for a reason, and that is because if there is an issue, as a solar panel, electricity coming from, you know, core, I can go shut it off. Thermal panels, they do have a shutoff, but they continue to generate, especially in the sun, right, energy. Like, there's no way to stop that process. So we have a lot of issues with that when we go up, fight fires on roofs with solar panels. So I don't know if that can be mitigated, but that's a concern we have from the fire department. And I'm speaking on me, not any department in specific. So, yeah, that's all I have. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next it looks like Jerry. Jerry? Gerald, okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Geraldine Glover. I live on 14095 Skyview, which is just above this massive project. I rise here today not in opposition to renewable energy, but in firm opposition to the placement and the scale of the processed solar farm in our community. I cannot imagine anyone wanting this massive project in their backyard. I certainly do not. The negative impacts on our land, our health, and safety are significant and far-reaching. This solar farm would alter and destroy natural habitats, displacing the wildlife, so no need for those fancy gates, and threatening the delicate ecological balance of our region. Native plants, grasses, so important to our environment, will be wiped out. The panels require substantial water to clean and cool, straining our already limited resources. And despite being marketed as clean energy, these facilities generate dust, chemical runoff, poor air quality, noise, and even localized temperature shifts. Is that what we call green? You may think this only affects us few residents of Elbert County, but I ask you, why don't we matter? Why shouldn't we have say in what matter happens to our view we've invested in, the health we rely on, and the property we have worked so hard for? There are serious safety concerns too. For those of us living near Road 154, I know I'm being repetitive, there is only one way out and one way in and one way out. If a fire breaks out, and we know these systems can and do cause fires, we are trapped. Our fire department is not trained, equipped, or staffed to handle chemical fires of this magnitude. With our high winds, that's a recipe for disaster. There's the long-term burden as well. This project will lower our property values, raise our insurance costs, and when it fails, or eventually is abandoned, like many have, it will leave behind toxic waste. These panels and their batteries contain dangerous materials like lead, cadmium, acids, and heavy metals. They are not recyclable, and they will not be responsibly disposed of. Who will clean it up? The developers, you think? No, I doubt it. It will fall on us, the community, our children, our future. Sundance Energy and their financial backers have said this is minimal and a small sacrifice for the greater cause. But what cause is that? Meeting renewable energy standards that benefit corporate interests while burdening the rural residents. We are not against progress. We are against being sacrificed. Please, I urge you, listen to the people who elected you, represent our voices, and protect our homes, our land, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the line looks like maybe Katie, 13671 County Road 154. Did I get that right?
Hi, my name is Katie Betancourt. My address is 22276 Eagle Drive, Elbert, Colorado. I am here today to speak on my parents' behalf. They live on 13672 County Road 154, Kiowa. We have big concerns on the proposal of the solar power project and the location at which it would take place. We currently live on the exact road at which it would border, County Road 154. The road is a dead-end road with one way in and one way out. If this solar field were to catch fire, the 20 or so families, including my wife and I, would possibly be trapped and not be able to evacuate the fire and toxic smoke. This is a huge liability for this county. The Kiowa Fire Department is not equipped, trained, nor staffed correctly to deal with this situation of this magnitude in a timely manner due to the dead-end road problem. The excessive amount of lithium batteries at this location would be catastrophic to the surrounding areas in the event of a fire due to the toxic fumes emitted. These fumes are cancer-causing due to the chromium, heavy metals, nickel, and lead that these batteries are made from. These types of batteries are explosive and toxic to the environment, humans, and the animals in the area. With the project area bordering the first part of County Road 154, a possible evacuation could be extremely dangerous and potentially impossible. Some questions I would like you to consider before making your decision. If a reverse 911 call is in order, how long would it take to evacuate that area? The ISO ratings will go down, so our insurance costs for the neighborhood will go up. Who is responsible for the reimbursements to those that are being affected? In the event of a fire of this magnitude, where would the water come from if they do need water? I know that they had talked about letting them burn out, then we're talking about toxicity. It takes 30 to 40,000 gallons to put out one car battery. These batteries must be submerged and extinguished. The Kiowa School District is 3.5 miles away with no buses to evacuate the students. We have 300 students in Kiowa School District. How would they be evacuated? How quickly could that be done? All of the effects of the wildlife in the area. How do they plan to keep them safe? The land can never be used as agriculture land again, which I find out, as you said, it could. But from what I was looking at, it's at least 30 years that it has to be in a resting position after everything is removed. So what does that do to the land value in the surrounding areas? Our family has lived in Elbert County for 5 generations. We moved here for the peace, serenity, and beauty of the landscape, which will be taken away from us. Is that fair? The value of our homes will be depreciated. Is that fair? Would you want your home and your family to live next door to this solar farm? So in closing, I believe that the proposed location of this project at the entry and exit of County Road 154 is unacceptable to our families. There is no plan that has been put in place for a safe evacuation route in the event of the fire of this magnitude. Please consider our community's concerns and wishes when you make your final decision. Is this fair to those that have worked so hard to have their homes devalued and their health compromised? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we've got Larry Willard.
Try this. I don't know how successful I'm going to be. My name is Larry Willard, and I live at 13250 County Road 154 in Kiowa. I share about a mile of boundary fence with this project, bordering on the east and about half of the south side. As a former land use administrator for Elbert County in the early 1990s, I'm a big proponent of individual property rights. However, there are conditions that the use of the property must be legal, first of all, and second of all, it can't preclude the legal property rights of a neighbor. Me. Being almost 79 years old, this project will interfere with my retirement plans because there are about 4 to 6 potential 35 to 40 acre building sites that join the project, and they would become virtually worthless if this is approved. Not decreased by 7% or 25%. They are worthless. Nobody here or watching on the internet would buy a piece of property and build a home adjacent to 170,000 solar panels, 49 storage battery units, 38 inverters, another substation, and an 8-foot agricultural mesh fence, whatever that is. This long and the short of this is that the Eman family, over the course of this project, will receive millions and millions and millions of dollars, while costing me hundreds of thousands overnight and an inability to sell this property. I'm not opposed to a renewable energy source, but a project of this scale does not belong in the middle of a neighborhood, which this has become. Far different than it was in 2018. There are other sites in less populated portions of eastern Elbert County that would be suitable and less intrusive if the county believes that it needs a solar farm. I'll close with one bit of food for thought. If this is approved and brought online, it becomes not a matter of if, but a matter of when one of our big hailstorms in this county come along, accompanied by a 3-inch rain, and it'll send the toxins from 170,000 solar panels down the hill to the west, under or over the Kiowa Bennett Road, into Kiowa Creek, through Bennett, and onto the Platte River. I've put 5 roofs on my house in the last 30 years, all due to hailstones in excess of 2 inches in diameter, up to baseball size. The list of co-defendants in that particular lawsuit, along with a list of plaintiffs, would be lengthy if that happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on our list is Russ Steele.
Good afternoon. My name is Russ Steele, live at 13990 Longview Circle. I'm in the Skyview subdivision, which is just east of this project off Road 154 at the dead end. One thing I haven't heard discussed yet in any of these discussions is the airspace above the site. Title 14 Code of Federal Regulation 77 is the safe, efficient use and preservation of navigatable airspace. My question is, was a Form 7460 filed with the FAA for review? It's been shown that EMF does interfere with avionics systems. A simple Google search showed multiple military training routes and for high-speed, low-level flight training, such as VR 1011, VR 1022, and is just west of several MOAs, military operational areas, used by Buckley and the Peterson Air Force bases, as well as the small aircraft training areas that are above Kiowa, not to mention DIA's approach is right over 154. I think Cypress needs to file that form, 7460-1 with the FAA, and submit the project data to the DoD Site Clearinghouse for review, just to make sure there's no implications there. Another point that was brought up in the Planning Commission, which I haven't heard addressed yet, I've heard people discuss the dead-end road at 154. They were asking for an evacuation plan for the residents and livestock along that road. I haven't heard yet if that has been provided. And then one more point is I am against it. I want to protect my property values and those of my neighbors. Those neighborhoods that are out there, they are $1 million homes. People that come to look at buying $1 million home don't want to look at that. So please take that into consideration when making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sue Willard.
Hi, I'm Sue Willard. I live at 13250 County Road 154. I am I'm a Colorado native, Denver native. I've lived in the adjacent property for the last 29 years, and I've been an Elbert County resident since 1971. I've seen a lot of changes in this county. There are many issues with the proposed solar farm of this size at this location that will affect the surrounding residents and neighborhood. The discrepancies from the application to what the applicant said at community meetings to me one-on-one has become more evident as time goes on. It was obvious that the applicant had not driven east on County Road 154 past the proposed area to see what the surrounding countryside is like, nor anywhere around even a 2-mile radius to know what those residents are how they're going to be impacted. This affects the county's country lifestyle and aesthetic view that they moved out here to enjoy, as well as the condition of the Kiowa Bennett Road and County Road 154 that they travel daily. Skyview subdivision is over 3 miles to the east, but it also sits at least 100 feet higher than the site. How does that not affect the view that they paid a lot of money for? What about the family directly across the road to the north that is also a longtime resident, and they will be forced to see those panels 24/7, 365 days a year? Was FAA Form 7460-1 completed and included in the application to the county? This has to do with not only commercial air traffic, but the military and civilian air traffic that is consistent in this area. This area is a training space for the Air Force Academy, Buckley Airfield, and Fort Carson, with helicopters, C-130s, C-5s, and fighter jets. There are daily privately owned planes that fly this area from Meadow Lakes and probably Centennial. Will this solar farm pose an issue with any of these aircraft that the FAA Form 7460 might answer? Another question is the water. No wells will be drilled by the applicant. No, this is true, they don't own the land. How do you have a septic system, though, in the office building for the 2 to 4 full-time employees, which that number changes, where they will also have a kitchenette with a sink that is to be maintained with, quote, off-site sourced potable water? Hauling water creates more traffic on Kiowa Bennett Road and County Road 154. How do you have dust mitigation using fresh water? Again, more heavy-duty truck traffic. What about the water needed to wash the panels? With the wind and the dust we currently have to maintain their efficiency, I would think they would need to be washed more than the once every 3 years as stated by the applicant. My windows could be washed monthly to stay clean. I would imagine that there will be more dust after they have scraped off a lot of the topsoil to level the ground enough for the panels and trenched for the miles and miles of cable that needs to be buried. And then we have rainwater runoff to the west down the several natural drainage areas that can go over the Kiowa Bennett Road and on into Kiowa Creek. We do have heavy, large rains in this area, often accompanied by hail. No, they're not yearly, but when they come, and they have caused lots of damage running off, especially with the topsoil gone. What about the wildlife? They will fence the deer and antelope out. Coyotes, fox, prairie dogs, jackrabbits, badgers are all burrowing animals, and they are here also. They have 2 game cameras on the west side of the project that are watched remotely by personnel in North Carolina. What about the golden eagles, the bald eagles that nest on our place as well as on Kiowa Creek? What about the many red-tailed and Anderson hawks that also nest there? Owls on Wolf Creek and Kiowa Creek, as well as the bluebirds, robins, meadowlarks, sparrows, wrens, etc. They'll either become vaporized and or move on to a different area. And then how much sun glare is really produced by the thousands of panels for those of us using County Road 154, driving west in the mornings to work or to take our kids to school, and then coming home again at night driving east? Another question is, how could the construction begin in February and March when they hadn't yet submitted all of their plans?
Commissioners, that's 5 minutes.
Okay, in closing, There are many questions that have been serviced listening to the applicant and the Planning Commission. Lots of research has been done, creating more questions, but we cannot get those answers at this point. I sincerely hope that the three of you deeply consider all the implications of this proposed project, not only on the surrounding residents, neighborhood, but the county as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Chad.
Man, heard a lot today. Good afternoon to you guys. Thank you for having me. There's a lot to take in. What I appreciate is I'm a United States Marine veteran, and the fact that I lost brothers to protect the freedoms that we have in this nation is huge. To see everybody turn up and fight for what they want, to see you guys do your due diligence, but also gives me hope because of companies that come in and do their due diligence as well.
Let me interrupt. Before you go any further, give us your full name and address just for the record.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Chad Ritter, 760 Mosquito Court.
Thank you.
I represent Elbert County Wranglers. We're a competitive youth program. Our sports youth program, we are a nonprofit organization that greatly depends on the sponsorships and donations to help limit costs and provide opportunities to our community youth. We represent all of Elbert County. We have youth from everywhere and giving those opportunities to them for the next level. We support our local high schools, middle schools, and elementaries. Our resources, as everybody has talked about greatly, we are maxed out on resources in Elbert County, from practice fields to facilities to multiple different things. These programs, they're used to build leadership, management skills, being on a team, all of those things that they don't learn inside the schools. So it's very important. I've had a pleasure of building a relationship with Zach and Lauren, specifically from Cypress Creek, and they have helped out in giving us essentials needed to help our program and succeeding in fighting at that next level for those youth. And so when we're talking about character, we're talking about those kinds of things, and we're talking about being picky and choosy on what developers are coming in. I think those are things that we really need to highlight on some of those developers that are coming in. You know, my dad always taught me actions speak louder than words. So far, their actions have spoke louder than their words. And I think that continues with scholarship programs for the next 40 years to kids that might not have that otherwise. And some of those other opportunities that we have to, make good on the kids that are in Kiowa schools and other schools and surrounding, and providing some tax benefits and things like that. Sorry, I'm off of my thing here. The project only strengthens the infrastructure of the growth that we've already had, the tax revenue coming from the county or into the county, and the generous donations and all of the and all from the project that offers no noise pollution, light pollution, high volume traffic, the things that we've already talked about, all at the same time is providing a real necessity of energy to our community that we will need and that we do need. And so with ending, my thought is the need is near, if not already here. And why not partner with a company that's already in their DNA to help the needs of the community and have already shown that in those partnerships. Not only Cypress Creek, but the contractors in which he, came up here and talked about, Core Electric and things like that. So I personally appreciate you guys coming and doing the due diligence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we have Chris. Chris of Kiowa Fire Department.
Commissioner, I just want to draw the attention to the time. We may
Get
go
one
full
more
5
in here
minutes.
real
Go a
quick.
little-
Okay, all right. You did? All right, thank you. Next is Debbie Ullum. I know who we're gonna get to.
My name is Debbie Ullum, and I live at 11195 Copper Canyon Circle. Lived in Elbert County 90% of my life. I raised my kids here. You'll see my shirt says, "Remember your why." I think that's really important for every one of us here. I do respect that people have property rights, but I also respect that I have property right next to it. I am not right next to them, about a mile from the solar farm. I'll tell you, here's my concern. I serve on the Kiowa Fire District Board. Tomorrow night is my last night on that board. This project came as Sundance Solar to the fire district in 2018. I kept my feelings about the project silent. I didn't come to the meetings because I felt at that time it could benefit the community and the fire district. The fire district stood to get $200,000 in impact fees. I will tell you, we waited. We wondered what happened. We followed up with Sundance. We found out that they lost their contract to sell the power. What happens if that happens again? And we've got, I don't know, maybe Corps always wants it. We don't know what the future holds for any of us. But I will tell you, at that time, as a director, I believed that that would either supply us with equipment or foam or whatever we needed to put that fire out and keep it from going to the community's kids and trapping 154 in. $15,000 is what we get this time, and it was a donation on their part. They technically did not even have to pay that. I want you to know that. As you sit here in the county, we'll get $3.4 million, but it's the fire department that has 3 employees. 3, count them. If a fire happened right now, which you know Chris just left, we'd have 2 people to respond. Guys, it's not good. Right now, to get a fire truck, an engine in this community will take 4 years and $1 million. Take the time to look at Chief Lemansky's reports, follow the district. We are in trouble. Where is the water going to be on this site? There is no water. Okay, we just watched Forest Ridge nearly burn to a crisp 8 years ago, whatever we're at now. You know what? We have a cistern out there right now that the fire district, the bids are $28,000 to $35,000 to fix it. Where do you think that money comes from? It's coming out of the taxpayers' money that they get, but then they don't have money to pay staff. This is a problem. I just really want you guys to think about it. It's a problem for me when I stand here and I know that there's not going to be a response time. It's a problem. Maybe we consider putting a cistern out there. I don't know what the answers are. Do I like a solar farm better than 1,000 homes? 100%. But you know what? It's still not ideal. And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm asking you to try and find it and to protect our property values. My why is my grandkids in that Kiowa school. And I've got 6 of them here. My family's not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all give us just a minute, please. Okay, speaking with the commissioners here, we've got 3 more people left on the list, so we're going to go ahead and finish up, even though it's 4:02. So save folks from having to come back in the morning. So next on the list is Alyssa Richter. Did I say that properly? There we go. Hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this time to speak. I don't support this solar farm. Solar farms are dangerous for people and animals. Solar farms can leak into the Kiowa Creek and over time get into the Denver Aquifer. Our water source getting into everyone's drinking water. When it rains, the rain will wash toxic debris from the farm into the Kiowa Creek, affecting anything that comes in contact with it. Toxins and fire. Solar panels do break and do catch on fire. If we get hail or when the wind blows debris, sticks, tumbleweeds, miscellaneous into these panels and break them, the panels release toxins, sticks, tumbleweed into the air around the area, and where the wind blows will become toxic for humans, animals, and plants. Battery fires are toxic and hard to put out. Once the batteries catch on fire, it can take up to 5 days or more to get the fire put out. You can put these out, they have to burn. You can't put these out, they have to burn out. Our high winds can spread a fire quickly, putting everyone around at risk. Depending on the wind direction that day, firemen would have to just try to keep it contained all day and all night. The OTE Massa battery, Vecta in California, is a battery storage Vecta that caught fire last year, took 15 days to burn out, and had toxic fumes. You can research this video on YouTube. If the solar farms catch on fire, how can we get out? There is only one way in and one way out. So how can we get this toxic thermal runaway? That will ruin our lungs forever. The firefighters can't put it out, and they can only hope to get there in time to contain the fire. The smoke from the lithium batteries and solar panels will hurt your lungs because of the lithium batteries and or the solar panels. Toxins spreading over land and Kiowa Creek. If rain is solar farm would feed all its toxins and debris over many farmers' lands and into the Kiowa Creek. Many farm animals, pets, and wildlife rely on Kiowa Creek for their water supply. Some of the wildlife includes lots of birds, hawks, bald eagles, deers, elk, antelope, mountain lions, and more. Please note that we shall not harm the bald eagle and their nesting grounds. Solar panels and batteries leak toxins into the land, destroying not only humans, pets, farm animals, wildlife, but the land, plants, and flowers that the solar farm will sit on along with the rain, sweeping it across many other farms and through the Kiowa Creek. We have beautiful land and animals to take care of. If we put the solar farm up, it will kill and harm not only the land and animals, but humans. In conclusion, we are farm animals, not a dumpster of toxic waste. Our county and community are not equipped to handle the long-term effects of a solar farm. Please say no for this solar farm. Thank you for listening and for your time.
Great job, thank you. All right, Gary Richter.
Good, sorry.
That's right.
37210 Skyview Circle up on the ridge. My biggest thing was the batteries themselves. Once they catch on fire, there's not much you can do with that. You just tend it, that's it. I know about cooling systems in it, I understand that, but that's only good when a battery isn't in thermal runaway. Once it's in thermal runaway, bets are off. It keeps going until it burns out. And the toxic fumes and everything that comes around with that, not good for you to breathe. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
But the toxic fumes are not good to breathe. I mean, it straight up hurts your lungs, and your lungs are done for the rest of your life. So if this ever happens over there, we're in trouble. And then the one way in, one way out. not good. How are we gonna get out? That's all I really got.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Last on this list, we have Jim Marshall.
I just have a couple of comments. Water storage and access are very easy things to solve. They can always create extra access. My address is 4091 East Chestnut Court, Greenwood Village. The fire issue, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to comment on any of that. That's for these guys to respond to. I did want to talk a little bit about property value. There's a community that I developed in Bennett, Colorado called Skyview. And it was developed, I think I started it in 2017. We finished it in 2022, I want to say. What I do know is that the assessed valuations in 2023 went up considerably from 2022. And from 2023 to 2024, the assessed valuation on the entire community went up $850,000. The next year, and that was the year where everybody got hit with those 25, 30, 35% increases. So property values went up quite a bit over that inflationary period after COVID. The following year, it went down $11,000 from 2023 to 2024 on 175 homes. And if you take the average, it's about $63 a home in assessed valuation. So that equates to something a little bit more in property value. But I'm still involved in that community. From the Metro District standpoint, I'm still the president of the Metro District. I have several homeowners on the district with me. And homes do sell out there. They sell for good market value. And there's obviously a lot of things to consider here in Elbert County. It is a unique area. It is windier. And again, these guys have a few things to respond to, I guess. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, folks, just talking with other commissioners here. We're going to recess this meeting until tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And we will make a motion to close this meeting at this time.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second. You want to adjourn?
No,
you want
I'm
to close
sorry.
the meeting?
I make a motion that we recess this meeting until tomorrow morning at the same location at 10 o'clock.
I'll second that one.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming today.